Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Bleav.
Doesn't matter if you were an Indian or if you're a Warhawk.
The Yearling mention is the greatest.
This is the Bleav in the Warhawks podcast, powered by WarhawkReport.com.
With hosts Dusty Thibodeaux and Chase Region. More important than baseball. Sorry, Ford.
Well, what on earth did I just walk into?
I think I'm doing this right, but he's yelling at me, so I'm not. And so,
What are these guys always talking about?
We talk a lot about food on this podcast, and I'm going to continue to do so.
So was that actually y'all's idea? That's awesome.
Nailed the introduction, by the way. Awesome.
Thanks,
I love
Fish.
it.
QB1, leaving the spring. Tell me what it feels like coming back year 3. How do you feel you've kind of progressed and gotten ready to lead this program?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, just new offense, kind of just been a new change. I think it's just been good for everybody, Just really been excited about what Coach Montalto's kind of done and his vision across the offense and just kind of the mentality he's kind of instilled every single day. And I feel like we've really just gotten 1% better every single day. And I think that everybody's kind of raised their standard, raised their level because let's face it, after last year, everybody's expectation was challenged and we just need to keep getting better every single day.
It felt like last year was kind of a tale of 2 seasons of the Aidan Armenta. There was the early season and then maybe what we saw the last 3 games of the season. Where's this Aidan Armenta?
Yeah, I think it's just still just trying to be kind of just be the same worker every single day. Like I just said earlier, you can't be outcome based. So I've never been that. I love football. I love showing up to work every single day, and I don't do it for the opinions of other people. I do it because I love this game, and I'm just going to keep doing it for that. I'm going to keep doing it for the guys in the locker room and just keep doing it because I know that the results are eventually going to fall in our favor.
Several new faces there at the tight end receiver position. What's it been like trying to build that chemistry and that connection with your new pass catchers?
Yeah, it's been really fun. I think just some of the new faces, Parker Fulgham from Clemson and then Bryce Anderson from Memphis, some guys like that have really just kind of made a mark this spring and kind of just showed how dominant they can really be and kind of just mesh with some of the other guys, the returners from last year, JP and Nick. I think it's just been really fun, and I think we're going to have a deep group this year that's going to make a lot of plays. So,
you're standing behind a largely new offensive line. What have you seen out of that unit?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You have guys like A.J. Vincent coming back. Obviously, that's huge when you have your right tackle coming back. He's going to make a big difference. And when you have your left tackle, David Applewhite, he's got some experience. And then some of your left guard and your right guard and your center that have just all played a lot of football. Sean Duggery played football at Albany and then got to play at Memphis a little bit too. So I think when you just bring experience and you keep bleeding that together, it's going to create some good outcomes on that offensive line and just kind of be dominant this fall.
Bigger countdown for you. Start a fall camp or Mississippi State?
You know what? I'm focused on tomorrow. I can't even worry about what's going ahead forward. We just got to keep getting better every single day. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited for that Mississippi State game because I know we're going to shock a lot of people.
Going to shock a lot of people. That was QB1, Aidan Armenta, bringing us into the show. No Chase this week. There's no telling where that guy's at. But we do know, unfortunately, that softball will be at home, having lost in the semifinals of the Sun Belt Conference tournament. No at-large bid to go into the NCAA tournament. It really comes down to, even though they had the regular season title, the conference's best overall record, the league sent 3 teams. The Warhawks were not one. There were several games in the regular season, though, that really would have put them over the top and put them in a place where they would be able to be getting ready for those regional appearances. They got swept by McNeese, swept by Jacksonville State. I always get those two mixed up. They're dancing. Getting the series loss to Texas State, a team that is also getting one of the at-large bids for the league. And then lost 3-0 to Southeastern Louisiana, kind of the darlings of softball this year. I think if you get any one of those, if you split with McNeese, you get the Southeastern game. I think you're talking about getting ready to go to Baton Rouge, to A&M, Texas, wherever, for a regional berth. Baseball, on the other diamond, they're in 12th place right now. Definitely not where we want to be. Better than the 14th that was predicted for preseason. But there's still a 34% chance that they make it into the Sun Belt Conference tournament, something they have not done in 4 seasons. Obviously, they got to win. They've got to beat Troy in the season finale in that series that'll be at the Lou beginning on Thursday. But then they need some help. They need Arkansas State to lose the series. They need Georgia State to lose the series. And then with all the tiebreakers going on, they should be able to sneak in to that 10th place. And quite honestly, it doesn't matter what happens in Montgomery. Just getting there. I think getting there shows that the team is headed in the right direction. It shows that Ford Pemberton has that bit of success, that he can parlay that and continue to build this roster. It sucks that there's going to be some of these guys that you want that one more year out of, but the pieces are there, especially if they can hold on to guys like Micah Dean, Zach White behind the dish. Dean Hanna would take over the first base role there for Jake Haggerty or Jackson Landry. But they've got to address the pitching while still holding on to Adam Brodnick's another key piece that they got to have. We talked about softball not getting into the regional. Women's golf, they are in the regionals, currently in 5th place after 2 rounds in the Tallahassee regional. Why is that a great thing? Top 5 seeds out of the regional advance to the national championship in California. So they're right there on the cusp. One more round to go. Got faith in them. Other than Mother Nature wreaking havoc on the course, you just got to hope that somehow that doesn't shorten the rounds or really impact the play too much. We still have a chance, though, even if the team is unable to get it done. Individually, Johanna Surgeon, she's the overall individual leader. 8 under par, and she is absolutely killing it there. Another great thing that's happened on the Bayou, I feel like there's just been so much going on the Bayou. From the Hawkline to the NFL, Haley Hoover is headed from the Bayou to the Roar of the Jags to dance for the Jacksonville Jaguars. As far as I know, that might be the first ULM dancer to get the call up to the big leagues. We talk about the L Club that includes the Hawkline as well as all the other sports that we discussed. And we have the Prez, DJ Fortenberry, joining us to wrap up the show and give us the inside scoop on his career on the Bayou, as well as some insights into how ULM is such a big part of the Monroe community, as well as Hall of Fame and really what that means to the L Club. Always good to have former student athletes brought back onto the show. DJ Fortenberry, pitcher for ULM baseball from 04 to 08, still paying his dues as president of the L Club. DJ, welcome to the show.
Ma'am, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, brother.
The first question I always got to ask is why ULM? What brought you to the Bayou way back in the dark days of 2004 to come all the way from Santa Ma up to Monroe, Louisiana?
And, I tell people this all the time. Everybody's recruiting story, there's always some craziness to it. No matter who you are, there's always some craziness to your recruiting story. So I'm actually a legacy baseball player. My mom's youngest brother is one of the few guys to come to NLU, get drafted out, and play in the big leagues. His name was Stephen Bourgeois. And I remember at 8 or 9 years old, we came up. He was playing in, I Bleav he played one season. He played right field on Friday and Saturday and pitched on Sundays. Ended up pitching in the big leagues. But I think he played in 93, I think. But I remember I came up. It was me, my mom, my grandmother, and we're driving across the land bridge through campus. And this is when the natatorium was there. And there was girls laying out. There was no fence around it, all in bikinis. Ski team was practicing. And Olin Hall was there. I was like, and I remember telling my mom, I was like, is this what college is like? If this is what college is like, this is where I want to go. And that was, like I said, 8, 9 years old. Fast forward a few years, we come up and my high school coach. So I went to Riverside Academy, which is in Reserve. It's outside of New Orleans, but I grew up outside of Baton Rouge. And my coach knew that St. Fred's and OCS, and I played 2A baseball, were some of the better teams. So my junior and senior year, we came up and played And then what was, I guess it's now the Alt-A, but then it was called the Sportsman's Classic. We played Oak Grove and just a lot of the local Northeast Louisiana teams that were pretty good. And I got to pitch against OCS. It was my senior year, and one of my other teammates at ULM, Kyle Smith, was a junior. He was pitching against us, and I gave up a hit. So I walked the first guy, get the second guy out. Third guy hits a home run. Only hit I gave up the whole game. We ended up losing 2-0. But I threw a gem, and of course, I'm from Lutcher originally. The great Lou Sanama is there watching because my craziness is my shortstop's stepfather's father is Lou Sanama's brother. And so Lou comes watch us because it's, a River Parish team. And like I said, I threw a gem. He finds out my mom's younger brother played for him and then asks, hey, where's this kid going? And, I had, offers from Delgado and Gulf Coast and Colin and Mississippi, a couple of junior college offers. But I wanted to go. At that time, I was really like, can I go to Southeastern? It's right down the road. They didn't want me. But Lou said, talked to my parents. They're like, hey, he'd really like to go to a Division I school instead of a junior college. Nobody's really offered him yet. And he said, okay, tell him to call this phone number on Tuesday. He's got a spot on the team. I was like, okay. And this was in that time, before we were on camera, you and I were talking about how crazy the NCAA can be. This was in the time where the coaches couldn't call players, but we could call in. And so I called on Tuesday. I called Brad Holland, who ended up being my head coach at the time. I was like, hey, BH, Lou Sanama told me to call. And Brad's like, man, I don't know what you did, but apparently you know what you're doing. We don't have a scholarship, but we have you're on the team, preferred walk-on. You'll earn a scholarship. And by the time I graduated, I ended up having like 33%, one of the bigger scholarships on the team. But came in, and that was kind of my story. No official visit, nothing. I actually got recruited more in high school to play football on the collegiate level than baseball, but baseball was my sport. So that's really what brought me here. And then, graduated and moved back to Baton Rouge for a little while, where my best friend played for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and he just got done playing in the World Series that year. And so I've never had a summer where I goofed off that summer. He reported back for his spring training, and I moved back to Monroe, and, almost 22 years now I've called this place home.
It's crazy that we always talk about the boomerang effect of Monroe. You can leave, you always come back.
Man, I love this place. It's crazy the correlations I've told people. Recruiting here was always, you would think it would be something that's difficult, and the difficulty for Shake getting people here was getting them just to come. But if we could get them on campus, man, it was easy to sign people. I think I was like 10 for 11 on getting recruits to sign in my time as a player.
And 6th Street helped that as well.
Oh, 6th Street helped, Deja Vu, Mustang Salad. I mean, the bar scene around here was crazy. You come to a smaller town, a lot of these guys, Oklahoma, Florida, Arizona, Texas, never really heard of this area. And you come here, there's beautiful women everywhere. It's actually a cool community. Food's pretty good. It's not really Cajun, but it's pretty good. The nightlife scene was fun. Campus is beautiful. I mean, it has its nuances that make it a really, really enjoyable and cool place to be.
You had a 4-year career there, wearing the Indian and the Warhawk logos.
I did.
What was maybe the Sports Center highlights you had out of that realm of time?
And I don't know how many. So I had some good. My first game to ever pitch in college. Now, mind you, I grew up in a little town, Sanama, Gonzales. Most people are familiar with. It's right outside of Baton Rouge. Quite literally, the exit you get off of to go to my parents' house, if I went in the opposite direction, will take you straight to Alex Box. My first college appearance was against LSU. And I throw 3 innings, give up 2 hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts, which I was not a strikeout pitcher. It threw a gem. And then, of course, I was kind of a sidearm guy, so I had a lot of movement. They called my fastball the whole time a changeup, which Ben McDonald still. If I see him, I'll have words with him one day. But that was fun. That was my first game, my last regular season game that I got to pitch. I got to pitch in the old Rosenblatt, and the old stadium, which that in itself was pretty cool and incredible. We played Creighton there, and also faced the guy that made Sports Illustrated Sports Center highlights, that the ambidextrous pitcher that threw from both sides, who ended up playing for the Yankees, played in the big leagues. He was actually, he was really good. It seems gimmicky that, he threw from both sides, but he really was a good pitcher and threw from both sides the whole game. I would have thought he would have just stuck with one day, and then the next day come out and throw with the other arm. He threw with both arms the whole game. We had some fun, in that year. Like, I jokingly tell people, we dogpiled in Rosenblatt my senior year because we found out we won conference while we were there. We needed Lafayette. My senior year was hosting the conference tournament. They had to sweep UNO the last weekend of the season to make the conference tournament. All UNO had to do was win one game, and they were conference champions. So we're just sitting there playing Creighton last weekend off, waiting for them. And sure enough, Lafayette sweeps UNO, and we got to dogpile in Rosenblatt as conference champs that year. And then we ended up being the first team in the Sun Belt since I think like 84 to not get an automatic bid in a regional that year. So, the ups and downs. But, the crazy, I think my freshman year, I had 8 guys on that team get drafted. We played with a lot of talent. I tell people all the time, my senior year was probably not the most talented team I played on, but we were the team that meshed the best, and we always hung out together, always got along. Everybody, seniors to freshmen, were always together. We were probably the best team I played on, and I say this as a pitcher on that team. If we could have pitched, we were a top 20 team in the country. I mean, you look at our stats that year, we hit with everybody. We did not have any strong, dominant arms. Hell, our closer threw consistent 82, 83. Derek Ward from Texarkana, but
Old G Ward, man. Old name.
Just filthy, man. Filthy fastballs. But no real, like I said, no real dominant arms. Jared Jennings, throwing his 84, 85 from the left side. And you watch these guys now consistently, pitching staffs topped about 92 to 95. Like, the guns have to be different now than they were when we played. But it was, I'm going to say there was nothing really spectacular about my career, but it was also a lot of fun. Grew up with a lot of guys I played Little League against around New Orleans, Baton Rouge Metroplex, that got to play against them. Some of them, I think Will, can't remember his last name, played for LSU when I was there. I think he just retired like a year or two ago as a pitcher. And guys I got to play with and against that played in the big leagues for a while. Great coaches. Jeff Schexnayder, I think, still one of the few coaches to see complete ups and downs in the as both a coach and a player. It was a really fun career. We also had a couple guys that thought fighting the football team one night would be a good idea. So we made Sports Illustrated best of the worst. Probably the worst punishment I've ever had to do that weekend after that. But yeah, it was a good career, good time.
You got to play with a guy that just went into the Hall of Fame, Ben Saunier.
I did.
What is that like, knowing that you're kind of on both ends of that, knowing that he was one of your teammates, but now in your role as president of L Club, you kind of oversee the Hall of Fame and still get to relive the glory days with him?
Yeah, it was, some of our board members say this, and I don't think you really realize it, understand it until you're in it. You know, it takes former student athletes typically about 10 to 15 years to really want to come back. For me, the college experience changed who I was, my personality, how I reacted and communicated with people. Like, I was very shy and reserved in high school. When I got to college, it was like one of those coming of age. I'm just going to talk to everybody, not going to be, just going to be out there. And so I'm very appreciative of what I got. I think I'm a little more appreciative earlier on than most people my age. But, you know, we also, like, things that happen as student athletes, you're always comparing everything. And as a baseball player, it sucks because the number one baseball program in the country, whether they're top rated, LSU is just, it's them and it's kind of everybody else. And the amount of stuff they have, and then on top of that, Marucci being there. I mean, it's baseball on top of baseball on top of baseball. And so it's easy to sit back and say, well, they always got this and we didn't do this and we didn't do this. But then you take a step back and say, man, I was so lucky to have an opportunity to play here. I mean, our playing surface was the best in the state. No one could tell me otherwise. We had the opportunities we had here, and the appreciation you gain for it. Like I said, once you're paying for it, when your kids are playing, going through these, and you understand that, oh man, this stuff costs a lot of money, and the requirements and the wherewithal to just keep pressing forward through it. You appreciate that a lot more as time marches on. And I think I've now lived in Monroe longer than how old I was when I actually got, because I got here at 19. Like I said, I've been here for 22 years. And so, I think when you have that first 10-year reunion, that first, for us, we won conference my senior year. So when we came back the next year and got our rings, and then in 2018, we had a get together, and it was the first time I'd seen most of those guys since we played together. It's just the appreciation of that. And especially like in those team settings when, we'd start out in the fall running at 5, 6 in the morning to school, to study hall, to weightlifting, to practice, to not getting home till almost 10 o'clock at night, rinse and repeat, do it every day. There's brotherhoods in there. There's, guys that walked in my wedding, guys that I see and hang out when I go to games. I'm looking for that I played with. Just the camaraderie that came from that. It was one of the main reasons I jumped in the L Club, was because, I knew we could bring that and recreate that year over year for student athletes that played here, and just bring those people back. And then this year was kind of my first year to really be in that driver's seat for the Hall of Fame, because we kind of hadn't had it happen for, I think it was 5 years. We had pushed it to athletics to be a fundraiser for them, and then athletic director changes. Things just not happening. We just took it over and said, hey, let's go with it. And, bringing in a former tennis player that played when I was born, couple football players, Colton Browning, that I watched play, who actually worked for me when I was a bar owner when he was in college. Ben, who I played with. There's another guy from Baton Rouge, Mr. Christoph, Arthur Christoph, that played, even before I was born. But getting to go in and meet these guys and kind of relive all those glory days and those stories, and to go through it, and to know that, Ben got inducted in, and, hell, there were games where I was crapping to bed and he came in and saved it for me, So to be like, yeah, Ben was an absolute stud. I played with some guys that, to me, absolute shoe-in Hall of Famers. They just need a little bit of time. He was without a doubt one of them. I think Ben Jones gets in there eventually. But Sonye, to be able to come in and do it on the mound, in the box, at shortstop, diving into the left field wall, which was a brick wall, neck first, and just getting up. Like, we all thought he died, just getting up and going right back out to shortstop. I mean, dude, he was a hard-nosed player, and to know that I got to play with guys of that skill set, that talent was really cool. And like I said, that was my senior year that, I got to play with Benny. He graduated the next year, but there were tons of athletes that came through the program that Matt Green and guys that they were just Jim Miller, who played in the league for like 9 or 10 years. Just guys that were there and that were good. I mean, I remember Jim. People didn't want to play catch with him because this guy just naturally threw 94, 95 without even trying. And on the bump, he's pumping 97 with ease. And nobody wanted to play catch with him because just playing catch with him, he just throws like a maniac. But it's just what his arm naturally did. It wasn't anything on purpose, But yeah, man, it was cool to be able to be a part of, some of those legacy guys in the program. And even after we played, Shake came in and put all the All-Americans, put banners up outside the stadium, and to see some of those, because, dude, my 13-year-old all-star coach was Ben Sheets. So just having these guys that were part of the program that are still around, that are still active, and that are really, when you think of NLU, ULM baseball, they're right there, and they were so integral in my whole career. It's really cool when you take a step back and appreciate it.
Not only do you keep the South End Zone squad on a leash there.
No leash. We are wide open, baby. Looking for a Fireball sponsorship. If anybody knows, let's go. We'll take one.
But in addition to that, you also did some good public service there for the city of Monroe. How big is that partnership? That I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, it's the city that ULM's in, ULM's, they're partners. But how big is that partnership, knowing that there's so many people that go to ULM that really never leave the Twin Cities,
right?
And really need to do more maybe to keep ULM around as that big economic driver.
Man, so I've always felt like ULM kind of sits on an island, right? Like the northeast part of the city is ULM and just kind of sits on its own island. And sometimes it's higher ed that happens. It's its own governmental entity in itself. But, one of the things when we went into the mayor's office, the mayor wanted to do was like, hey, let's start small. Let's start easy. Let's put banners up all around the city to where ULM flags are not just on campus. Like, hang them from we went in and we put 300 banners. I think it was 60 in each council district, all around the city, that said ULM on one side, Louisiana Delta Community College on the other. Because at the end of the day, these are the universities, whether you graduated from ULM or Tech or LSU or what, but if you have a business in Monroe, the likelihood of your workforce coming from either ULM or Delta is pretty high. And so we wanted to highlight that. And in highlighting that, start trying to partner with ULM on projects, not just on campus, pull them off campus, as well as putting them around the community. Because, like when I was there, I think we were 10,000 students strong. The sports programs, football, baseball, basketball, when teams are winning, it is it's our entertainment. Even hell, women's soccer, softball this year was a lot of fun to watch. Still have no idea why they're not in a regional, and yet 3 teams in our conference are in a regional, but the conference champions are not in a regional. Make that make sense to me, please. But all that being said, and they also have the best record in the conference too. It's just throwing other things out there, but that's the true sense of entertainment outside of watching your own kids and doing your own thing. There's a level of enjoyment that they add to the community that, when embraced, is a lot of fun. Talking about the South End Zone, I'd argue that there is not a better place in college football to watch a college football game. 50 yards out, you got the biggest TV ever right behind you. 50 yards in, you're right on it. We have our L Club space in there where, I think it's an additional $20 with general admission. It's all you can eat, all you can drink. Um, Basically a pet place. Let your kids go run around and play, and then reminisce with a lot of former student athletes and their wives and their husbands, and just a good time. And then you have the South End Zone squad area, which is Tailgate Terrace, which is a lot of former student athletes there as well. And so it's just, man, the experience there, we're wanting to add to that this year. I know they're adding during the Tech game, they're going to add the Pat Collins porch on the north side of the stadium, just adding to that experience. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we were able to create kind of in that end zone. And even the guys that created the whole South End Zone squad deal, just the notoriety it's bringing with ESPN and things like that. When we're on the games, like, they're always right there with us, and the guys in that area are religious. They will be right there at the shot clock every game, rain or shine. Been there for the last 10, 15 years. They're always there. There's turnover fireball, touchdown fireball, you name it, we're shooting it, and we're having a good time. And it's fun, man. It's really enjoyable. And then being able to bring my kids in there to do that. We're wanting to, we talk about L Club, we talked a little bit about off camera, like, we're wanting to create some of that experience for every sport. I mean, you look at the porch that softball has, that's a lot of fun out there watching the games. Baseball down the third base line, if we could figure out somehow to reinvigorate that third base line, get it back to what it was when I was playing, where you're 10 or 15 people deep along that fence. I love the fact that we put the bullpen back along the fence, took it off the field, although there was a lot of chirping that happened when it was right there on the fence. It was a lot of fun, but I think I have some better stories when it was along the fence. But if we can figure out how to get those people back along that line, I think you change that overnight for baseball. But it's just, bringing that fun back to those experiences and those games is one thing that, we're really wanting to do with the L Club. Kind of this year, we're kind of taking it under our wing to be the reunion group. You have a 10-year reunion. We have the Crow team reunion, Coach Collins era for football, the bowl team era, which I kind of fall into that era. But, it's just taking these certain groups, and where I look at it, I graduated. I was on campus from 03 to 08. And what we're looking for is, if you were a student athlete at that time, here's the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year reunion for that comeback. And just what makes those football games fun is not necessarily what you're watching on the field, but being able to catch up with people you hadn't seen since you were on campus. I think I talk to more football players now than I ever did when I was on campus. We knew who each other were. We were just too busy in our own sports, and when they were off, we were playing. When they were playing, we were off. And but being able to come back and even share those experiences, like, that's the fun one. I talk about, a couple baseball players thought fighting the football team would be a good idea. Now it's a joke. Like, now it's every time, hey, y'all want to fight again? Let's go, And so it's become it was something stupid we did as college athletes. Now as adults, it's like, no, no, I think my back's hurting a little bit right now. I can't, I don't have the energy for that. And, so it's just being able to stick around and be on that L Club. It's been a lot of fun, really. And then, for me, being able to bring those people back in town that may live in Shreveport or Oklahoma or Texas or Mississippi, being able to bring them back to our community, and they're staying in hotels, they're buying new merch, they're going out to eat. All of that drives that economic development, that bottom line for the community that makes ULM really that driver for our region. You take ULM out of this community, and it is a very, very different space.
not everybody got to be a student athlete living in, Strauss or whatever the non-dedicated student athlete dorm was. What can the average fan do to kind of fit in and be able to give back and be involved with L Club?
So first off, I never had to live in Strauss, thank God. I lived in Hudson, right next to it, which was not as bad. And then I lived in Slater, which was phenomenal. Slater had, I think if there was 12 wings in Slater, 8 of them were all girls and 3 of them were guys, and there was 1 that was vacant. That was probably the best dorm to ever live in. But the average fan, we used to say this a lot, and it's not just in sports, but I remember this as a kid watching the Saints and even the DiNardo era with LSU and growing up in that area. Louisianians are tired of being resilient, whether it's hurricanes or tornadoes or ice storms. It's always something, right? It's always, you look for economic development spectrum of all the states around us, with the exception of Mississippi, but even Mississippi now are doing really well. And you look at the top 10 states in the country that have grown since COVID, and 6 of them are in the southeast part of the United States. And Louisiana's always left out. And so one thing that we've always been able to kind of rally around is sports. And whether it's your kids playing or it's the Saints with Drew Brees era, or even Saban area, Les Miles era of LSU and their national championships and things like that, it's been able to drive community around those sports. And what I remember those growing up around Baton Rouge, New Orleans, the culture around that is so incredibly different now. Like the Saints getting season tickets used to be, man, you can go sit wherever you wanted, whenever you wanted, right? Now, good luck getting season tickets. And same for LSU. I mean, LSU's got one of the biggest football stadiums in college football now. And they're selling it out every game, but even though, like, even with them in the last couple years, like, if they're not winning, people aren't going. And I think it's one of our biggest issues with ULM is that, just win, baby. If you win, I saw that my sophomore year here, we start out 0-19. Brother, we couldn't pay people to come watch us. We were bad. Then my senior year, we won conference, and you can Google it. We were top 20 attendance in the country in college baseball. Like, people are going to show up to win. Now, I say that to say this: ULM will never be LSU. ULM will never be an SEC school unless something happens and one of these schools closes and our enrollment just quadruples overnight. But it won't. It just won't be that. The funding's not there. The population's not there. It's not a. There's a lot of factors that go against that. So what I think ULM can do that helps the community, and you kind of see it a little bit with Tech. We got to start making bowl games every, at least 2 to 3 years. Start getting in a game, playing in the postseason. But also as fans, we also got to understand, like, hey, look, this is the program we have with NIL and what's going on. We're going to get really, really talented players. They're going to come in. They're going to lead the conference in rushing yards. An SEC school is going to come in, pay them to leave. They're going to go lead the SEC in rushing yards last year. We have to accept that and embrace it. Hey, look, we're more of a developmental position as a university than we are as a team that can continuously play for national championships in football. Now, our other sports can play. Baseball can play in the World Series. Basketball can play in March Madness. Like, you can get into those and be contenders. It's not, you don't quite have to have the depth that you have to have in football. But also, in the same breath, making a bowl game is not a bad thing. Playing in the playoffs is not a bad thing. And And like I said, I think NCAA will eventually get it to a spot where they're making so much money on the Power 5 playoff that you'll start seeing School of Five play. You'll start seeing levels to this. But I think one of the things that we can do at ULM is get your butts in the seats. Like that's legitimately it. Like, appreciate what is being offered to you. If you haven't been to a baseball game, you don't have to like baseball to appreciate a baseball game. Just go down there, bring you a 6-pack, 12-pack, whatever you need, walk in down the third base line, go post up, and just watch baseball. Sit there with your kids. I've done this with my little boy, my little girl, and just talk the sport with them. You don't have to know the players. You don't have to know the people in the stands, but you know the game and play the game, right? Like, mentally play the game with your kids, whether it's football, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, and appreciate that there is a sport being played at a higher level than what most people ever get to play. And there's a lot of talent on that field. And it's typically a pretty good game to watch. And so, like I said, as fans, I think just being there is a big piece of what you can do and how you legitimately help our athletic program generate those revenues needed to compete on the next level and be able to recruit and be able, butts and seats go a long way.
Awesome stuff. DJ, I love talking to you. Have to get you back on here at some point in time, maybe as it gets closer to L Club season, i.e. football season.
Yep.
But I can't thank you enough for stopping by, chopping it up, and give us some insights there on your time as a Warhawk and an Indian, and now leading the L Club.
That's right. If anybody's tuning in and has any interest in come and get on the L Club board, come and help us do that. We don't do a ton of fundraising unless it's specific for athletics, things they need. We really, to water it down as much as we can, we throw parties, right? It doesn't have to have alcohol involved. Like, we lead those get-togethers. What I would love is more female student athletes from like soccer and softball. There's some sports that we have not done a very good job of getting out in front of. And truthfully, it's because we don't really have the alumni on the board. We have a lot of male sports. We do have cheerleading as part of our sport. The only two groups that are not part of the L Club that were connected with athletics, and it's because they have their own groups, is the ski team, because that's a whole fraternity of people by itself, and then also the band. And band has its own fraternity and all that stuff. But all other sports, baseball, anything you can think of, karate, rodeo, cheerleading, Hawkline, we have Diamond Girls, all of that stuff. And I got somebody tuning in right here with me. But anybody that had that connection and did that, whether you played for one day or 5 seasons, it doesn't matter. If you had that connection, we consider you a L Club member, and we'd love any assistance, any help we can get.
So what are you proposing?
It's simple.
Perhaps you should read the instructions first.
If you liked the show, like and subscribe wherever you stream podcast.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
Follow us on X at Warhawk_report. Like us on Facebook at Warhawk Report, and click the subscribe button on YouTube for Fun Belt Podcast.
He's done!
Done? It's only been an hour.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.